the first thing we wanted to talk about was Urban Meyer. That was obviously a really huge story this whole week.
Right. So, Urban Meyer got fired on Wednesday night, Thursday morning, early. So first of all, I was right on this. I called this last November probably.
When he got hired.
That this was I called it before he got hired when the rumors started that he might take the Jacksonville job. I called this. Yeah, I called this in November because I thought he physically has a hard time making it through college football seasons. There's no way.
November of 2020, not November of this year.
Right. November a year ago. So, I thought physically he would just have issues because he's got some physical problems. He's got from what I've read about what happened when he was at Florida, he's got some kind of cyst on his brain that causes him some issues, which I don't know what that means, but whatever. That's what they said. That's what was in the story. So I thought there's no way that this is a good idea because as hard as you have to work in college, you have to work much harder in the NFL.
Yeah, because in college it's about recruiting and then you get the best players there. And I mean, there is some in-game stuff, but I mean, the NFL, it's all scheme and, preparing for stuff and, from what has been released and reported and what I've been reading about it, it didn't seem like Urban Meyer was all into the getting prepared every week and studying the film and just getting everybody ready to go. So,
well, think about it. In college, you practice 20 hours a week.
Yeah.
Yep. The NFL is 24/7, every day, all night.
Right.
The whole thing. So
I wanted to real quick because there's an article on The Ringer which does a really fantastic job going over the whole. It's called "The 10 Moments That Define Urban Meyer's Disastrous Jaguars Tenure," and it's amazing because it goes through 10 different things, and it's funny to me because I'm reading them and going, "Oh yeah, I forgot about that thing that happened. I was only thinking of these 2 or 3 things." Then there's 2 or 3 more that you're like, "Oh my God, that happened too." It's on The Ringer. It's by Roger Sherman, so people should check it out if you're wanting to get up to speed on everything that went wrong with Urban Meyer in his time with the Jaguars.
Yeah, exactly. So, but what I found interesting this week is the story came out obviously where Urban Meyer kicked his kicker in the leg and said, "Make your fucking kicks."
Yeah, and the kicker got turned back and he's like, "Don't kick me." And he's like, "I'm the head ball coach. I can do whatever the hell I want."
Yeah, so everybody's jumped on board with that. Well, Urban Meyer's an asshole, and
that happened in August. That's the thing,
right?
Which is kind of crazy. It's coming out now because all the other stuff has happened. So,
right. So it's and what I just found interesting is that now he's a bad person because he sucked coaching in the NFL, and it's like I've got news for everybody. Like, I'm sure if he's an asshole with the Jaguars, he was an asshole at Florida, and he was an asshole at Ohio State. So,
yeah, it's not breaking news. It's
if you it all as everything in sports comes down to, do you win? Like, did you win? Did you win? Because if you win, we'll let 35 players at Florida get arrested in the 5 years he was there.
Right.
No problem. You know, if he's got the assistant coach is beating his wife at Ohio State, but Urban, we'll just suspend him.
The thing is, I heard so Albert Breer was really great. He was on. It was either Colin or maybe it was Dan Patrick, and he was talking about how Urban Meyer's style is basically he kind of creates some level of tension and chaos, and that's kind of how he does things. And he also mentioned that like on some level, Saban does that as well. Right. So people are like, "Oh, this whole thing with the Jaguars is chaotic." Yeah, it was chaotic, but people wouldn't have cared if they won, So,
right. Yeah, and then it goes back to he'll never get another job, and it's like, oh, then nobody's going to hire him now. And
I heard that on ESPN. I heard Heather Dinich and Paul Feinbaum were basically like kind of saying that. So I don't know. I mean, it may just. I kind of think that's a thing where people just give it a year, give it 6 months or something, people will kind of forget about it. He could get another job in college or as an analyst on Fox or ESPN or whatever.
Yeah, does he want? Well, that's the thing. Does he want one? You know what I mean? He can't get hired right now. There's no jobs open.
Yeah,
all the jobs are taken now. It's like I don't think anybody's going to hire him in the NFL or college for next season. Probably not. But the idea that if he wants to coach again, he won't be able to get a job is lunacy. And I think it's this Urban Meyer thing just boils down to. It's a perfect example of, he tried to get happier than happy. He had a great gig on TV. Like, he was great at it from what all the reporters were saying. He really loved it. And he was fine. He didn't,
I think he's hyper competitive and he wanted to just see, can I do this in the NFL?
Right. Yeah. And, I think, so I don't think it's a bad thing he took the job, but I just think, he obviously was not prepared from what it looked to me.
Ready for what the NFL is. Right. There's so I was reading through this article this week and it's just like, he got upset in the preseason because he said his assistant coaches were preventing him from running the Jags full game plan in their scrimmages. And so I'm quoting Urban Meyer. He said, we can't show this. We can't show that. And I'm like, why? Tell me why. Explain to me why. And it's like, dude, you can't show all your stuff in preseason scrimmages, okay? Because you're going to give the other teams an idea of what you're going to run. So they're going to be like, you have to kind of limit what it's the preseason. And then his whole thing with the preseason where he just, he got upset because they lost games in the preseason as if he didn't get the whole concept that these are exhibition games. They don't actually matter, And then it was so funny because he hired all his assistant coaches. And then there's a story he brings his assistant coaches into a room and calls them all losers. And it's like, dude, you hired these people. What the it's just a thing where like he just did not get how the NFL worked. And then there's other stuff in the story where they're talking about why there was a game where they didn't have Trevor Lawrence do a quarterback sneak, and they're like, well, why didn't you? The press after the game is like, why didn't you do that? And he's like, oh, well, we didn't work on that or something like that. And it's like, no, that's not true. You did that plenty of times. It's like, it just seemed like he didn't know what the hell he was talking about because he wasn't as locked in as I guess you need to be. So.
Yeah, I got the impression that in college he would just let his coordinators do what they were going to do.
Yeah, which in college that works, but in the NFL you can't do that.
All right, you have to be on top of every single detail.
Yeah,
and so, I think it's. I don't think we need to I don't like the media bashing Urban Meyer. I think he tried it. It didn't work out. He wasn't good at it. That's it. It's not more complicated than that. He didn't ruin anybody's life or, commit some kind of crime or,
I mean, it was a disaster because, he didn't even last the full season, right. Which is fun, but I do want to just, I'm not going to go into the whole Tebow thing, but I just thought at the time we talked about how we thought that was completely ridiculous. And it was completely ridiculous. Okay. Anyone who said otherwise was wrong. You were just, you're just putting a hot take out there. So, right. And that was, to me, that was part of the thing where we're like, he just doesn't get it. A similar thing was that he sat the one running back, Robinson, and then he put Carlos Hyde in, and people are like, well, Carlos Hyde played at Ohio State. Was he just playing Carlos Hyde because he's his guy? You know what that reminded me of? Remember when Spurrier was the coach of the Redskins?
Yeah.
And he played Danny Werfel, and it's like, dude, he's not what the hell? He's not an NFL quarterback. What the hell are you doing? Like, I know you played for you in college, but you can't. That's just stupid. That's not how the NFL works.
Yeah, I heard some story where Spurrier was at practice one day with the Redskins, and the offense and defense are practicing on the same field, and he's like, or no, I think the offense was practicing. And he's like, okay, well, where's the defense practicing? And they're like, Coach, we don't have 100 players. We can't, we don't have the defense practice over there and the offense practice over here. Like, they have to practice against each other. Like that's how this works. So he literally had no idea, what was going on. And the thing is, you can get away with. It's kind of. I think this I think should kind of teach people. There's a massive difference between the NFL and college. Jimmy Johnson, the former Cowboys coach, was on, I think, Dan Patrick the other day. And he said, and they asked him, well, what's the difference between the NFL and college? He goes, they're not like, they're galaxies apart. Like they are complete. There is not, there are very few similarities, and one is completely different than the other. And so I think that anybody who thought that, like, now, granted, you obviously were uninformed if you thought that, oh, well, he can do it in the NFL. Because it's a different ball game. And so I think you have to know every single thing that's going you have to know and get involved in every single thing that's going on.
Yeah.
You cannot be a CEO and be a good head coach. Like, you really have to be on
those
top
days
of it.
are not. Yeah, you can't be sitting on the sideline, not wearing a headset, basically being a cheerleader. Like, that doesn't work anymore in the NFL. That doesn't work in college either.
Yep.
Yeah. So, but yeah, the stuff about him just complaining about the preseason and calling his assistant coaches losers and not being able to deal with, it's like, what did you think you were getting into, dude? Like, and then there was a comment, he said, it's like we're playing Alabama every week. And he said that after they played the Texans. Like, what? So, yeah, it was, just kind of a mess. They're just, and it's not to say that college guys can't be successful in the NFL, but I thought it was interesting that before he got the job, or when he got the job, Colin Cowherd was basically saying he's never coached in the NFL. That kind of concerns me. So, and I think that's totally fair.
Yeah. Most guys that they go from college to the NFL, they've usually coached in the NFL at some point. Like the guy for Matt Rule, the Panthers coach, he's coached in the NFL before. Yeah. So it's different, it's different if you've done that before. Nick Saban, before he came to the Dolphins, he'd coached in the NFL before.
Exactly.
So that's a different deal. But anyway, yeah. So Urban was a big ass sloppy mess, and it didn't work out as I predicted it probably wouldn't. And the bigger thing that people need to talk about is we need to get off of Urban Meyer. And the Jaguars are a complete disaster of a franchise.
Yeah,
they have been for a long time. The owner has no clue what he's doing. And that's coming from a Dolphins fan. I'm not sure our owner knows.
Well, remember,
he's
according to Colin Cowherd, he said that if they didn't get Urban Meyer, they were going to hire Robert Saleh, who's coaching the Jets, who are a mess right now. So yeah, that's for, you're like, oh, you can't call it a mess because they just hired the wrong guy. No, they didn't just hire the wrong guy. The other concern I have is that Trevor Lawrence is ridiculously talented. Okay, but there's only so much that quarterbacks can overcome. So if they don't get things flipped around pretty quickly, then it's going to be one of those things where we sit there and wonder, like, could Trevor Lawrence have been better than he is if he had competent coaching the whole time? Which we wonder that about a lot of quarterbacks. But he's been really bad this year, and I don't want to sit there and blame him. But it's just you look at it and it's like, okay, we're getting to the end of his first year. Can we see some stuff that we can cling to and kind of go, all right, there's some hope there that we can see he's going to, but it's been really bad. So hopefully, they've got a few games left. Maybe they can turn things around. I don't know.
Yeah.